Hello Bishes, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to discuss just many different ways that you can be an artist and have a career as an artist. A lot of people usually get the misconception, usually the older generations, that art is not really a valid career path, but just because I feel like a lot of art careers out there are not as well known, they usually get misunderstood. But today I just want to present different options and career paths that you can take as an artist, and maybe which one would be more appropriate or suitable for you depending on its responsibilities. So specifically in today's video, I will be discussing careers in the art field that are more in the visual arts department, like drawing, illustration, things that you can visually see. There are so many ways to be an artist, but I specifically specialize in animation, cartoons, illustration, that sort of world. And if you are an artist that actually is in one of the career paths that are not related to animation or illustration, and maybe something that's a little bit more different, feel free to share your experience in the comments below so that other people can also gain more awareness of what opportunities are out there. And as a reminder, Oni, Thunder God's Tale is now out on Netflix. This is the first animated project that I have ever worked on as an assistant director, so I would really appreciate it if you checked it out. It is a super wholesome, cute story, but don't be fooled by all the cute characters and stuff, because there's still some level of depth and darkness to it, which you'll have to just figure out what it is when you watch it. So please give it a watch if you are interested in animation, Japanese culture, and just in general supporting artists working in animation. So I'm gonna start off with the first type of job that I myself am currently doing myself, which is storyboarding. As a story artist, you're pretty much bringing a script to what you will eventually be seeing on the screen. A lot of storyboards are often just left in black and white and kept as sketches, so there's low commitment to like the final art of it. If you are someone who often just likes to sketch and you just like to make quick drawings, but you don't like to always spend hours and hours and hours on like one specific drawing, storyboarding might definitely be up your alley. So another common department in animation is character design. So when you're a character designer, you usually focus more on the look and design and the appeal of the characters who will pretty much be the stars of the show. As a character designer, you might focus more on like shapes, proportions, volumes, how details of this character's look might contribute to their personality. You're really focusing on the characters only and not so much on like, ooh, the backgrounds. And as a character designer, you might have to work on facial expressions, character rotations, and making sure that no matter what angle this character is facing or what pose they are in the story, they still represent that character and they kind of look the same and stay consistent throughout. The next is visual development, which is similar to character design, which instead of just focusing on the character, you might be focusing more on the overall look of this show and how you're going to make everything look cohesive in one world, one environment, to stay consistent with this one story. Basically, you're kind of defining the look or the style of this show. So a lot of the different looks you'll be developing for certain moments might have to align with how a character is feeling in that moment, or how intense or soft is this moment of the story going to be. Those are just some things to consider, but at the end of the day, everything kind of will fall back to story. Now, bringing it into the CG space, CG modeling is another option for anybody who likes to sculpt or create 3D models of characters or props or worlds, environments. And instead of sculpting it in real life with clay, you're kind of doing it through a program like Maya or Blender, because when you're creating an animated project, you're going to have to create all of the assets that are needed for it, such as the characters, the props, the worlds, vehicles, plants, anything really. So as a CG modeler, you will be developing those assets that will then be passed on to animators to use to bring them to life. And that brings me on to animation, which there is still a lot of 2D opportunities that exist today, but I don't think that there are as many 2D animation opportunities as available as there were in the past. Like, you can probably still find some at Titmouse animation studios or at smaller indie animation studios, or even overseas in Europe or in Asia. But as an animator, whether if you're working in 2D or CG, you're always focusing more on the character's performance, the acting, and how they're going to be moving throughout a scene. But usually most animated projects will almost always have a need for strong acting and character performance. As an animator, you're usually going to be looking at a storyboard artist's work to use their work as reference and inspiration, but you're going to be the one who's going to be bringing that acting to a whole different level and just pushing it beyond what the boards provided you with. So that really is only the tip of the iceberg for the types of opportunities that are in the world of animation, but I just wanted to provide you guys like the basic top things that I could think of. And you know, as you gain more interest in a certain field, and then maybe you can look more into them and then see more specific types of roles like a prop designer, storyboard revisionist, things like that. So moving on to another industry, just so we can cover more stuff, will be books, illustration, and the world of publishing. So of course, this is the other job that I am most familiar with at the moment, but it is being a comic book artist / graphic novelist, where you're pretty much writing a story and illustrating the whole thing to life. It is extremely similar to storyboarding. Like, I would say they are cousins, because although they are kind of for different industries, they are still requiring very similar skills, where you're going to be laying out different scenes with characters doing certain actions or acting. So another job very similar to graphic novels and comic books is just being an author or an illustrator of a book. So let's just first say you're just gonna make a whole picture book. You can write it and illustrate it simultaneously, and it just won't be a graphic novel. It will just be like written text with illustrations alongside it to support it, and this is often used for picture books. But in a way, I would say that being an author of a picture book or a graphic novel is kind of like an in-between of a freelance and full-time job, because you can, in a way, be paid a full-time salary, but the way that you receive those payments will be broken down into milestone payments. So it's not like you get paid weekly like a regular employee. You might just get a huge chunk of a payment for every time you complete a milestone of that project. But I would say that being a picture book author / artist and graphic novel artist is a little bit less stable than being somebody working in the animation industry, because this is a little bit more project driven than animation is, and you're kind of a little bit more on your own with this one. But I would suggest getting an agent, because they are the ones that can kind of keep a lookout for you for future opportunities and help extend your longevity as an artist choosing this career path. But if you do not want to be the writer or the author behind the book, another job opportunity that still lies in the world of books and publishing is just being an illustrator for books. So I know plenty of people in animation who kind of choose this as a side hustle as well, where you're not writing or responsible for the story behind the book, but you're just providing the drawings and the illustration for a story that is already written. If you want to be an illustrator for a book, you might just be more responsible for receiving a copy of the text or what will be written, or a general layout of what the book is going to look like, and you'll see where the text is laid out, but you will be responsible for just where the illustration is placed, how this illustration is going to work with the text on these pages. Then the other option, if you don't want to draw it, but it's still a pretty good side hustle option or a good entry-level position, is being a colorist, where instead of just drawing the thing, maybe you're already working with an author illustrator who is already providing the story and the illustrations, but they just need somebody to help color it. So you can just provide coloring for these illustrations that are already existing. I think being a colorist is a little bit more unstable and does not have as much longevity. It is just a good side hustle, especially if maybe you're a student and you just want to dabble in something and being a colorist is more of a short-term commitment that you can take a part of. Or if you're just a newly graduated person, I feel like that's a great opportunity to have. Or if you're someone who's already working a full-time job and you just want an additional income without having a heavy responsibility, being a colorist is a good option. But for now, those are the roles that I can think of in the books and publishing world. I would say that again, this is kind of more in between full-time and freelance, because it's not like freelance because you are still binding yourself to this project that is a bigger commitment than a short-term freelance project. But at the same time, it's not like as stable as a full-time animation job that could take years for you to be a part of. And in terms of a book, that timeline might be shorter than being in animation. So that's why I would say it is kind of like in between a full-time job and a freelance job. So speaking of freelance, I'm gonna move on to that one next, where you can be a freelance artist. You can provide different services from animations, illustrations, paintings, designs for different clients that reach out to you. And I would say the greatest benefit of being a freelancer is that you definitely have the most say in your schedule and you're more in control of it, and you're just being provided a task responsibility that you will deliver it whenever the deadline is set. But otherwise, in between that time and the delivery date, you can kind of choose to work on this project whenever you want to. The only caveat I will say about being a freelancer is that maybe sometimes it might be a little bit more uncertain and unstable, because you have to look out for projects for yourself to line up back to back, which, yeah, in a sense it is similar to animation because you have to line up projects back to back. But I feel like from what I've learned from my friends in freelance is that those opportunities tend to be shorter because you're not really working on this project for years. Some people I know have agents working with them as well, being a freelancer, so they can again help you with the longevity of your career and find opportunities to line up for you back to back, so they help you create that stability. So in a sense, I feel like being a freelancer is a little bit more uncertain at times, but you do have that ability to just create this name and brand for yourself that could eventually evolve to your own business if you do choose to take it to that path. So then another freelance opportunity that is out there and I think is up and coming even more and more these days is being a tattoo artist. Because as a tattoo artist, it's kind of like a freelance job, but it's also a full-time job, especially if you're hired at a very good shop, or if you even started your own business as a tattoo shop owner, then great. But I feel like as a tattoo artist, you have the ability to still create these designs that are fully your own and then provide them to the different clients that you're working with, or have them select among the few illustrations that you've already created. Or there are even times where your client already has an idea of what they want and you can help enhance it so that it translates better when it goes onto their skin. I would say that being a tattoo artist is actually a great option for anybody who is comfortable with working with someone and directly on their skin. But also if you're thinking about developing your own business or brand, a lot of tattoo artists these days are having their own social media platforms where they showcase their work and what type of style they have as a tattoo artist. And you know, you can eventually develop your own brand or business if that is a path you choose to go for. So then next is the world of design. Now I will just fully admit that this is the world that I am the least familiar with. Like, this is stuff that's a little bit out of my realm, but it is a path that was a consideration when I was a high schooler and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Usually when you're working in a design job, you are working with a larger company or brand, and sometimes it might be in the tech field, fashion field. So the first example I will mention is print design, because I actually myself interned as a print designer when I didn't really fully know what I wanted to do. So for some time in my life as a high schooler, I just worked as a print designer in a fashion company where I just pretty much had to collect inspiration for different patterns that suited different timelines like 70s fashion or 80s fashion, and you check out different patterns of clothing that might exist that could serve as inspiration for this certain style that the project is currently going for. So if you're somebody who really loves creating patterns and working in Illustrator that will eventually be seen on apparel or clothing, that might be something up your alley. But I would say that the act of creating this art is more so focused on the aesthetics and the design and the appeal more so than like creating a story like animation. Then next is graphic design. I feel like graphic design is usually the most commonly offered art career for anyone who is just, you know, graduating from an art school and doesn't know what they want to do yet. But there are also a lot of great graphic designers out there who really honestly create these logos and designs that make companies look so much more appealing than they actually are. So I would say that similar to print design, graphic design focuses more on logos or elements that represent a certain company, brand. You focus more on the visual composition, typography, you might have to focus more on colors, and how all of these elements are going to eventually work together to communicate this idea that represents your client, your brand. Because at the end of the day, a lot of consumers like to associate themselves with certain brands that align with them. So you kind of also have to know what people out there are currently into. From my perspective, the world of design is a more financially stable career because you're already working with corporate companies or companies that have been existing and have proven to be successful for a very long time. I would say that this is a more financially stable career path if you are an artist and you don't really know what you want to do, but you just want to create art. But I feel like there's always artists who want to create something that has more of an emotional say behind it. So I will say that when it comes to graphic design, it's not as emotional of a career path to choose. So then lastly, the last category that I'll discuss in today's video is being self-employed and being a business owner, which is kind of almost the dream for any artist, I would say, but it's not always the dream simultaneously because there will be responsibilities that certain people just don't want. So first, I will start off with social media pretty much being a valid career path because there are artists out there who have proven for this to be true, where you are pretty much representing yourself and your own brand through your art. And behind this, you will need a strong following, of course, because usually to be successful on social media, you do need to have good engagement and a good number of followers in order for you to be sustainable, because you will either be crowdfunding your work like through Patreon or through classes that you are providing for your audience, or you might be providing merch, prints, or selling your physical artwork to people directly. You can probably also get paid through sponsorships and working with different brands who are pretty much using your platform as their space for creating ads. Or you can create a space for ads on your platform or through your videos like on YouTube, where you'll get paid out through AdSense, which is the most common one. So I would say that being a social media artist is going to start off unstable, but it has the ability to grow into a stable career path if you do have the ability to grow a very strong, solid following. But that is the one caveat I will say, is that even though in a way you think you're going to be working for yourself, you're still going to need to work for your audience, because your platform is mostly going to stay alive due to your following. So in a way, you're going to need to constantly appeal to them. It's kind of going to need to be a happy medium between what you want to do and what your audience wants to see from you. And then lastly is being a business owner. So I feel like there are a lot of small business shop owners nowadays who directly sell their artwork to their customers and constantly update their shops. Or you might be somebody who runs a studio who provides services to different companies. So that's going to be, of course, a more tricky career path because you're going to have more financial instability in the beginning, but again, it can grow into stability, very similar to being a social media artist. I will say that when it comes to being a business owner, your focus is more on providing the product or the service to your customer, but you will also need social media on the side to help promote your business or promote your merchandise or promote your products, because you will need to find that customer somehow or some way, shape or form. You're going to have to create that promotion and that advertising for yourself, because sometimes, honestly, some businesses or brands fail just because they are not good at promoting themselves, even though your art and your work is amazing and great. So in conclusion, I would say that when it comes to picking the right art career for you, you have to ask yourself certain questions and see what it is you want to do at the end of the day, because we could all be drawing, we could all be painting, we could all be designing things, but for what purpose? That is something that you will probably want to ask yourself. So if I were you, I would ask myself these questions. What type of timeline or schedule would I want to work with? Because if you're someone who just really cannot stand working under a structured time with a company, like working a 9 to 5, maybe that might not be for you, and something among the world of freelancing might be more up your alley. And then next, I would ask, do I want my art to have a narrative? Because I feel like what I notice in a lot of art fields is that there's either storytelling involved or there's no storytelling involved. Like, you're either designing or drawing something for the sake of something look aesthetically pleasing or providing it for a product, or there is going to be artwork where you're fully drawing like a whole scene with characters, people with emotions who undergo an arc of some sort. So if you want to do something that's in storytelling, you might want to do something in the world of animation or publishing. But if not, and you just want to draw and just call it a day and live your life, maybe you might want to do something more in the world of design where you have that financial stability. And then 3 is, how financially risky are you willing to be? Because if you really cannot afford that financial risk of just not having a job, then maybe you might want to focus more on a job that starts off more in a corporate world like designing, and then gain that financial stability to then go into animation, freelancing, or whatever it is you want to do. If you feel like, hey, I still want to do something that might not be as financially stable, but I need to develop my finances first, it is not a bad idea to just switch later on in life. And I feel like there should be no shame in that. There are a lot of artists I know who have came from a different career path, and it's very normal to do so. And I think that it should be more normalized to want to find financial stability before just jumping the gun and choosing a job that might not be as financially stable. So I hope that that ultimately helped you in thinking about what art career might be more suitable for you, because it might have to depend on your lifestyle, the type of art you want to create, and how much time you're willing to invest on certain projects. So keep those in mind. It's not just about drawing at the end of the day. It's not just about painting. It's about how you want to live your life. I personally knew that the art I created, I wanted it to have a story. I want to be working with characters and working with some sort of narrative. I personally did not find much fulfillment in working in the world of design, but that could be different for somebody else out there who enjoys working with design. And at the end of the day, art doesn't always need to be that deep, you know? You don't always need to be telling some beautiful emotional story. Sometimes you just want to draw something good, design something good, and that's it. And I don't blame people for that. So here are just the options that exist for anybody who is just getting started in their careers, and maybe just starting in one of these career paths might help you get a better understanding of what you might want to do in the future. So thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. So peace out and stay wholesome, bitches.